Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Let's see. Test, test. Can you hear me? Put something in the chat box if you can hear my mic. I'm just making sure this is working right now. What's up, Randall? Good to see you. Daryl, how are you doing? Carmen, Loida, welcome. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't see anything yet, but let's see. Feel free to put something in the chat. Give me a thumbs up. Oh, perfect, Carmen. Thank you. All right. So the mic is working. Well, welcome, guys. We will get kicked off here in a few minutes. It's 8:57 right now. If you guys, again, good morning, Randall. Good to see you. If you guys got some questions, start thinking about them, guys. Put them in the chat. Feel free to kick off this morning with some good questions. How was everybody's weekend? Did you guys go out and show some houses? Did you do an open house? Did you prospect? I know it was Mother's Day Sunday, so hopefully all the mothers in the room here had a great Mother's Day. I know that's what we were doing all day yesterday, was just traveling around and seeing family. And of course, you know, my wife, giving her a great day. Hopefully she's sick, but gave her as good of a day as I think we could have hoped for. So, all right. There we go. Good stuff. I already got a question coming in. Thanks, Carmen. All right. How do you encourage sellers to commit? Love it. I have 4 just getting ready. Love it. All right. We'll definitely talk on that. We'll answer that question here once we get started. Like I said, guys, if you just joined, hey, my man, Curtis Dixon just joined. Let me make
morning,
him
Kyle.
co-host here. Good morning. How are you?
Doing amazing. Doing amazing. Good to see you.
How was Meg's Mother's Day yesterday?
Oh, Mother's Day was unbelievable. We had an
Awesome.
amazing day.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Oh, it was amazing. Chrissy's a little under the weather. I gave her whatever I had a week.
Oh no.
And so, but she was a trooper. She was, you know, up and doing some stuff today. She's a little even more under the weather. So.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
I know, but otherwise good though. So.
Good.
Got to see my mom, so that was good.
Hey, Peggy's on.
I
Mark,
know.
Carmen.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, we already got a question in the chat, Curtis, queued up and ready for us. I know, man. We're excited. So it's gonna
Everybody's learning how this goes. I love it.
Yep. Yep. Very cool. Rebecca, welcome. Good to have you here, guys. We'll get kicked off in just a couple minutes. Just hit 9 o'clock, but we'll let a couple more people join in. All right. Curtis, did you do any sales stuff this weekend? Did you have any on Saturday? Any appointments, any open houses, any buyer appointments, anything like that?
I had a couple things going on. I didn't actually have any appointments. I've got 2 clients, 2 buyers that are working to get ready to make a move this summer. And we were just kind of getting their game plan in order and making sure their search is set up. You know, San Antonio is really competitive right now, as you know. So just making sure they're aware of what's going on before they get through the pre-approval process and get out there and try and win them a house.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Oh,
had
man,
a
how
listing that
awesome
closed last week too. So I was wrapping up with the seller, making sure she felt good about everything and she was happy in her new place and all that good stuff. How about you?
I showed some homes on Saturday. It's funny because, you know, like I always like showing homes that we have the potential, like that, like when we're looking to buy a home, like, you know, Chrissy and I were always kind of looking. I don't think we're going to move, but if we did, we'd be buying what this person is looking to buy. So it's like always exciting for me to show those types of houses when you always like, well, this has the potential to show me like what I would be moving into too, you know? And
That's
so,
extra fun.
yep, they're like, we want a pool, we want a 3-car garage, you know, all the stuff that we want. And, so it's been pretty fun. Plus, they're all right around my house. They want to be in the same area, so it's like easy.
That's awesome. That's always a good time.
Yeah.
We got Norma here, and Patricia's getting on. Good Monday morning. What's up, Carmen? How are you? Happy belated Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers here, if I didn't tell you personally yesterday.
All right. Randall, it felt awesome to share the stage with Glenn. That was an amazing experience for me. I've had the opportunity to meet with him a few times, and but sharing the stage up on the leadership meeting was pretty cool, I will say. All right. Good morning, Mark. All right, guys, we'll get kicked off here in just a couple minutes. Looks like it's 9:02, Curtis, and we could probably get started here in a little bit.
Let's do it, man. The more intimate, the better, right? The more
I
people we
would
get
love
to
it.
answer their questions specifically, the better. So, real quick, guys, just a quick introduction. If you haven't had a chance to attend one of these Monday sales masterminds yet, we do them every single Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central. And the format is we want to get to answering as many questions about your real estate business or real estate questions as possible. We've got leaders on this call that are very experienced and successful in their real estate business, but they recognize that you can always learn something new or pick up a nugget from an experienced or a new agent. And then we've got new agents on this call that are trying to get their business, launched and up and running and trying to build a successful real estate practice. So what we're going to do is we'd ask you to put any question or challenge or opportunity in your real estate business that you're seeing out there, either personally in your business or in your market or just the industry in general. We'd like you to drop that in the chat. So we're going to use this chat function quite a bit for this hour. We're going to open up the conversations for Q&A, for contribution from other folks on the call. And this call really only works successfully if you're participating and looking to get something out of it. So that's the format. My name's Curtis Dixon. I'm a real estate entrepreneur here in San Antonio, Texas. And we really do this for any and all agents across the country to try and give back, add value, and to keep our skills sharp. So I still sell real estate here in San Antonio, as does my partner, Kyle Handy. I like to say Kyle's done everything under the sun in real estate, run a successful team, built an independent brokerage, sold new homes, and he's still a top producing agent here in San Antonio. So Kyle, introduce yourself, man. Let's get this thing kicked off.
All right, yeah, we'll keep it short, guys, because I think if you're on these calls, hopefully already who Curtis or myself is. We've been doing these for a little bit, but like Curtis said, I'm definitely passionate about real estate. I love everything to do with this industry. It's given me and my family so much, and so I just want to be able to give back in any way that I can to help agents out there build kind of the same thing that we've been able to do. I've been in real estate for 11 years now, so. Started back in 2008, which was, of course, as we all know, the best time to get into real estate, right? It was definitely a down market at the time, but the way I looked at it, I was like, man, we can only go up from here. And sure enough, it has, and there's been a lot of things that I've learned along the way. But as far as general real estate, we'll get kicked off. We've already got a question in the comments that I wanted to address right away, and maybe it'll start to get those brain juices flowing for all the other guys on the call right now. That if you got questions, put them into the chat, because that's what this is all about, guys. We're going to answer y'all's questions, and they can be anything: lead generation, they can be objection handling, they can be business planning, social media, advertising, anything like that. Systems, trying to build systems into your business. So be thinking of those types of things right now, guys. Think of the things that are holding you back from getting your next deal. All right. And we'll start to answer those questions. So first off, we got a question from Carmen. How do you encourage sellers to commit? I have 4 just getting readies. So like they're kind of on the fence. It sounds like maybe they've been on the fence for a little bit now. They're not really too motivated to move. We definitely get people like that. Curtis, I'll let you, if you want to take a crack at it first, or if you've experienced this recently, what's been your thoughts on how do you push somebody, give them that little extra motivation?
Well, I'm glad you ended there, man, because, that's where I was going to start. So the first thing starts with understanding their motivation. That's where it always begins and almost always ends, right? And, when I say understanding their motivation, that could sound pretty broad or general, but it takes a lot of kind of peeling back the layers of the onion, right? So first of all, you have to have asked the question, like why they want to sell. That's where it all starts. So as long as you can look at all 4 of those listings, those sellers, and that answer, then you've got kind of like a starting off or a jumping off point, right? Then from there, what you actually have to do is find out if that's the real answer, because every seller has an answer. I want to sell because it's time to downsize, or I want to sell because I know the market's good, or I want to sell because I need the money, right? They all think they have an answer. But then if you ask, well, what are you going to use the money for? Or what's the next house going to look like when you downsize? Or when do your kids actually go off to college? Like you ask that next why question, it peels back the layer a little bit, and you're going to find out if that's really what what's motivating them or not. And again, you just have to keep stripping that back. And so it starts with their motivation. The next thing, if you do know their motivation and you think you've got it nailed, right, and you understand why, oftentimes the next step is it comes down to the math. Do they understand the math? Do they know how much they're going to make, how much they could make? Do they know the, supply and demand situation? Do they know how many buyers are looking in their price range? Do they know how, quickly homes are moving on their market? Just do they understand and have a clear picture of why now is the time to list? So if you've got motivation, you've got math, then the third one usually comes back to you. It comes back to trust or value. Do they trust you enough and believe that you're the right agent for them, or that what you've told them is true? Or do they value your services enough to believe that they should list with you? Do they see what you're going to do? Do they see what you're doing in the other markets? Do they see your recently sold posts on Facebook? Do they know what you're doing for your other sellers or what you're going to do for them? Right. So that's where I'd start: motivation, math, and then trust and value.
I love it.
What about
Yeah,
you,
I mean, it's basically all that. I mean, you have to, make the advantages outweigh the disadvantage. And so there's two ways you do that. You either, pump up the side of, hey, this is the dream, this is what you're going to get, and you're really trying to get them emotionally, invested into that. Or, you got to know what they're coming from, right? Like, why are they, thinking about even moving in the first place, and really play on that side of it. Well, like, you didn't like this, you don't like this, you got to kind of, do one of those two things or both. And then beyond that, it's kind of, it's just, you kind of like have to let it do it, play out its course. But the more that you can provide, like third party evidence or validation to kind of, back up your claims, I think that's helpful. So providing resources with regards to, whatever it is that their motivation, right? If it's, we want to buy because we want to upsize. Okay, well, it's going to be more expensive. And if we know that interest rates are going to get more expensive and you're going to a more expensive home, the longer you wait could hurt you, right? Like, and then you'd want to get some evidence to support that might be a potential coming down the road. And so that's just like one example, but everybody's situation is a little bit different. But again, you got to hit on that pain point a little bit, like not like, make it obvious, but like, always reference it a little bit, just to kind of take that little extra, jab, I would say. Or if you know what they're missing out on, by not making the decision, you need to like show that to them, right? So like, if a perfect home comes up that is what they're looking for because they're trying to sell this so they can buy that, like, man, I just saw this great home, and it went for this, and and so I don't know, just always kind of taking those little nudges whenever you get a chance, and then just being in constant communication with them. Like, don't let it go, like every week if you can. Even if they say, oh, we're just getting ready, and they almost kind of make it sound like they don't want to talk, I would just, talk to them, keep talking, right? And digging deeper into that motivation, like Curtis said. So
I got one more thought that popped up, Kyle. So you broke it down pretty interestingly, I thought, right? So I went right to like how you sort of go attack or combat, strategically. Go find their motivation, give them some math, trust and value. You actually broke it down into emotional and logical in a way, right? Like find their emotional triggers and push on those, or push on their logical triggers, right? If that's what you need to push on. So another possibility is, do you understand who's dragging their feet if it's a couple? That's another kind of big consideration, is if it's a husband and wife, like which one's holding it back from actually listing or going forward, and do you know that? Because so many times you think you're dealing with the decision maker, and you may be, but everybody's got their king or their queen in the background, and like you don't know what they're saying to them. You don't know if up front they're saying, yeah, this sounds good, Carmen, we want to do it. Behind the scenes they're saying, no, we don't want to do this yet. So that's another potential hurdle or challenge, both either emotionally or logically, is figuring out which one is stopping the progress.
Can I give like one like practical thing you can do besides just like what you say to them? Is offer a tour, right? Like if they are moving to like upsize or downsize or whatever it is that they're looking for, like get them in a home, because I guarantee you the second if you can get them into a new home of something that like is what they're looking for, that's going to make that that decision either obvious, or like it's going to it's going to make it obvious either way. Like they're going to be like push towards like, okay, we do need to do this, or you'll find out pretty quick if they were really just kind of not even serious from the get-go, right? Like they're just getting ready means like, well, it could be 2 years down the road, right? And so like I would say offer up a tour, try and take them to hey, look, I know a lot of times it's hard to make a move because you don't know what you're going to be getting into. And I want to take all of the guesswork out of this. And so, why don't we go on a tour? Why don't we just see what's out there, right? For fun. Let's go take a day. We'll go see 4 or 5 homes, see if this is, something that, you really do want to pursue more. And then I think you need to talk about the numbers with them. And because a lot of times they don't have all the answers. If you sell, have you ran a net sheet for all of those? This is exactly what you should net on this case. And then when you buy, this is exactly what your payment will be on this new house, right? Because I think when people don't make decisions, it's because sometimes they don't have all the answers, and maybe they're even afraid to ask you, to answer those for them. And so if you just propose it that, hey, I'm going to answer all these questions for you, you're going to find out pretty quickly then at that point, what's still holding them back. If they've got all the answers, you should find out pretty quickly about that. So that would be my other thing.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And on that same practical step idea, right? So not just get them to a tour, but back to the numbers, you could get them to a lender. Again, so many times they just don't understand the power of the math. And you might know the interest rates, you might be able to calculate the numbers yourself, but you might not be able to do it quickly and confidently, but a lender should be able to. A good lender should be able to tell them, hey, if you wait another year, here's the cost of not buying the home this year and selling your home right now, right? So I think that's another really good practical step. Get them out to a tour, show them what's possible, get them to a lender. The other one might be, I don't know if you have new home builders in your area, but if you do, not just a tour of pre-owned homes, but a new home, a new builder, because they'll also sell that dream for you. They'll show them what's going on, what's possible. They might realize that they could have 9 months to sell their house if they start building another one now. So that's another possibility. I think that's a good step. Anybody have any contribution there?
Yeah. I'll say while we're waiting, if anybody does, raise your hand or unmute yourself. But one of the other things you can do too, if it's more of they're wondering about their sell side, is offer to take them through homes in their area, right? That are their competition of their homes, and be like, hey, this is, the homes that are going to be your competitors. You want to just go take a look. It'll help us with our pricing strategy, but it gets them out there to see what's going on in their neighborhood. And a lot of people, they just like to be nosy, right? They want to go in their neighbors and stuff. So they'll say yes to it just to do that. And, but then that's one further step that you got, one extra commitment that you got out of that person, to go to the next step. They start to learn a little bit more. But I've definitely taken sellers through homes that are in their neighborhood just to show them. I say, hey, look, even if you don't make the decision, at least you'll kind of know what's out there. But then also, hopefully I can point out some things to you that when we get closer to getting your house ready to sell, you'll see, you'll know what a good house looks like versus a not good house. You'll know what staging you should do. You can start to take notes of these things. And so just do it it's a benefit add for them. But the more face time that you can get for them and the more value you can give to them, if anything, you're going to make them feel obligated to buy, because you're just going to be going over the top to try and help this person. And sometimes that wins. When they feel like you're doing so much work, they're going to just feel like they, need to pursue this a little bit more. So cool. Give them free boxes and tape. I love it. Yep. Boxes to move. Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk about the process. A lot of times, again, it's, hey, this is the process. This is my process. I loved what you said here, where you started a group over the weekend with buyers and sellers information, added loan officers, insurance agents, and what you can do is create a little video or something, right? Talking about the process. We make it so easy. We give you this, we do this for you. The only things you're going to need to do are X, Y, and Z. Some people don't want to move because they just think it's going to be so much of a hassle, right? It's oh, I got to move all my crap. I got to, do all this and that. And if you show them that, hey, this stuff happens all the time. People move all the time. And I've helped a lot of people, or I've got, the team that can help you move seamlessly, easily. That'll take a little bit of that fear off their plate too. So cool. Hope that helps. All right. I'm a brand new realtor.
Things off. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to Randall's question. I'm a brand new realtor. Could you give me a brief explanation of what I need to do immediately after a homeowner says they would like to list with me? Awesome. Hey, well, that's a good situation to be in. I think at that point, if they say that they want to list with you, you set up the appointment, right? You want to get FaceTime with them. You go over to their home and, and you're going to do your listing appointment, which if you didn't watch, I think it was maybe our first video where we talked about some pre-listing things that you can do, to prep for your listing appointment. I would definitely go back and watch that video. I think it was just 2 weeks ago, where we gave up some ideas of what you can do to prepare yourself for that listing appointment. But basically, you need to go in there and have a great listing appointment. And then if what your question means is like you've already done the listing appointment and they're saying, okay, yes, let's list, then at that point, what you need to do is start a plan with them, right? Like, okay, you've walked through their house, you've maybe given them a list of some items that they're going to need to take care of before the home's ready to list. Maybe it's new carpet, maybe it's new paint, maybe it's decluttering, maybe it's some landscaping stuff. You're gonna say, look, I need X, Y, and Z all done before I can get my my photographer out here. And then, so how long do you think it's going to take you to do that? Is it 2 weeks? Okay, cool. Well, let's put a date on the calendar. My photographer is going to be out here, 2 weeks from now on Monday or Tuesday. I'll get the pictures back by Wednesday or Thursday, and we can get it listed by, Thursday the 26th. Does that work for you? And you make a little plan for them of how that's going to happen. And of course, you get their listing agreement signed right then and there. And then you get the home, starting to get it listed, get it marketed and all that stuff. Now that's obviously a pretty quick in a nutshell stuff, because I don't know exactly where your question was headed, but that's what I do for my listings. Curtis?
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask. So I had a follow-up question, Randall. Like, talk about what you actually mean when they said they want to list with you. Did you already run a successful listing appointment and they signed that listing agreement? Or did you talk to them on the phone, or they're your friend or family and they said, hey, when we're ready to sell, we want to work with you?
Good. Yep. Awesome. While he's going through that, let's see, where's the best place to obtain a seller net sheet? Well, let me share my screen for that one. Let's see, and I'll just show you what I use. So desktop 2, oops, it's desktop 1. Here we go. All right. So I have this net sheet. I don't know, it might be a Texas specific one, but I just use Independence Titles seller net sheet, right? So I just put their details in here, what type of loan it is, just like San Antonio, put the sales price, all that good stuff in here. So like for you guys, I'm sure it's a little bit different, but maybe check with your title companies to see if they have a net sheet similar to this. I don't know. There's also an app. Let me see, what's the app that I have that? Because I can do it on my phone too.
Yeah, I think the title companies typically provide, at least what I've seen, some of the best net sheet calculators. So definitely contact your title company. I'm sure that site might have some Texas state specific stuff, but I mean, it's pretty general. If you go through it here,
yeah,
it really just covers, like prorated property taxes and homeowners insurance and HOA stuff. Yeah, a lot of times the MLS does have it. Yep.
That's it. That's what I use. It's Fidelity Agent 1. That's the one that I use on my phone. So Fidelity Agent 1. I'll just type it into the chat so that way you guys have it there. But so if you want to do it on your phone, Fidelity Agent 1. Otherwise, I'm sure you can probably find all sorts of ones online, but Fidelity Agent 1. The biggest one though is just practice, right? Like, get familiar how to use it too. So like, feel free to do one on your own house, do it on your parents' house, whatever you got to do, but just get kind of familiar playing around with it, because there are a lot of options. Like, let me see in here, you got to put in there like the HOA resale certificates, transfer fees. There's even like home warranty and stuff like that you can put in here. So it gets pretty specific, but and then just get familiar with how these like little tabs kind of work out. So anyways, hope that helps.
We're trying to get this listing management checklist put together. We've got a really cool one. I downloaded it. I'll probably put it in the comments of this video or something after we post it, but I'm going to show it to you real quick here. I know we already kind of moved past Randall's question, but I just wanted to show you a good place to start, right? So you guys see this listing management checklist. The reason I was asking you, Randall, like where you're at in the process is because it's helpful and important to think about it in sort of different stages, right? Like what you do before the listing appointment, as we talked about, Kyle said a couple calls ago, what you do at the listing appointment, but look at this list of like post-listing stuff. So that's why it kind of matters where you're at and what you've done, because there's so many different things you can be doing at different steps in the process. So I think that's another really good recommendation, whether it be this checklist or any other, if you Google and search, and you'll find some checklists available to you about like how to manage your listing. And I'd start there and then add or subtract to it, based on trial and error and experience. So I'll get that
having checklists like that is so important too, because you can bring that with you to your appointment. And when they see that you're a systems person and that you've got this down pat, and you might be using it just because you need the help. You're a new agent or something. You don't even know the process, but you bring that with you and say, hey, this is my process. These are all the things we're going to need to do. It makes you look like that much better And so, yeah, having a checklist is extremely important, guys, especially if you're newer, I would say. So,
And it goes
Curtis,
back to that thing you were kind of talking to about like Carmen's question too. Just sometimes, sometimes guys, like you think people are listening, we think people are listening, but they're not really listening really well. And most people are not great listeners. So even though during your listing appointment, for example, you might've told them the process, they might've just completely forgot. And all they heard was that sales price number that you said that sounded okay to them, but not that great. But then if you revisit the process, so, hey, I just wanted to get back with you and wanted to, again, walk you through the next few steps. We agreed with that listing price. The next couple things would be, right? Just like revisiting that process. This checklist helps. The other thing I find pretty helpful, just in general, in any explanation situation, is a lot of people are visual. So like if you can write something down or show them something that they can actually follow along with and understand, I think that's a really helpful way to explain processes, is just kind of show people stages and steps and timelines. And it increases their comfort level when they can follow along. Because a lot of times people feel embarrassed or foolish if they don't understand what you're saying. And us as realtors, we do speak with a lot of jargon. We use a lot of abbreviations, a lot of words that don't make 100% sense to them. And, we talk about it as if it's just sort of commonplace and matter of fact, but it's not for a lot of buyers and sellers. So checklists and explaining process via kind of visual aids or visual documents are really, really helpful. And there's a lot of this stuff, guys, if you don't happen to be at our brokerage, there's a lot of the stuff that I'm showing you available on, is it called breakthroughbroker.com?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a website I'd spend some time on. If you are at our brokerage, this stuff that I was showing you there, Randall, it's all available. And Rebecca, it's all available in our marketing center. So you can just literally go to the marketing center, grab the same checklist that I just shared with you. But checklists and visual aids, I think, are really, really helpful.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Curtis, what can we do? How can we share that like listing checklist for somebody if they're not
I'm trying to figure it out. I'll probably find like a Google Drive and give it a free link. So the next time y'all really get to talking here in the next question or so, I'm not ignoring you, but I am going to try and put some of these documents on like a free Google Drive so I can give out the link before the end of this call. So I'll get you some of this stuff, guys. Good questions.
I love it.
Good. And I like where we're going. Listings, guys. Like listings are the gold standard in our business, right? They bring you buyers, leads, and not to say they're easier per se, but they do require less, time consuming activities. Like if you go out and get a listing one time and you invest 15 or 20 or 30 hours into getting that listing up and live, now you're just doing marketing from your computer. You're pushing that property on social media and all those channels, but you're not literally driving around out there trying to get that listing again, which you are with buyers, So if you aspire to build, a sustainable, scalable real estate business, listings are definitely going to be at the heart of it. So I'm glad we're talking about listings this morning. I think that's good conversation here.
Yeah, I'll say, I know, especially I'm thinking back, like back when I was, first getting listings, and the thing that helped me get through them in the beginning, because like when I got started in real estate, general real estate, I didn't really have like a mentor or coach. I kind of just jumped into it and did it myself. Now I had 5 years of new home sales experience behind that, but it wasn't really a listing appointment. I never had to go through that. And the thing that really helped me the most feel comfortable to even go to a listing appointment was being prepared and having checklists and like having my listing presentation printed out, because like I use that as a crutch big time to make me look, like I had a plan, right? Like, and it just kept me on track. And so now at this point, I kind of, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I kind of just do it from memory, or I just kind of go there and build a connection with the people. And most of my listings at this point are referral and sphere of influence. But I know that listings can seem intimidating, especially in the beginning, but they're really not that bad. You just got to go in prepared and with a plan. So anyways, one of the things that I wanted to say, and this is along with the prospecting side of it, just like I feel like listing and having checklists for that is important. Having a checklist essentially for your prospecting is just as important, right? Like getting business. We talked a little bit about this, I think, on the first call where we talked about the greatness tracker. But if you think about that, Curtis, that's like a checklist, right? Like that's like a checklist of what you need to be doing every single week to constantly be generating new leads for your business and growing your real estate, sales business. And so if you don't have a prospecting checklist or some form of thing that like I do this every day or I do these things every week, I definitely think everybody needs to start there and make sure they have something like that they can use to stay on track as far as like what they're doing. Cool. NAR has tons of how-to forms for listings and other stuff. Oh, I love it. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah.
Breakthrough Broker is awesome. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I'm glad we found that.
Hey, let me hit a rant real quick, Kyle, just because you got my mind
Yeah.
flowing for a minute. So how many of you guys, like, raise your hand in the chat or put a 1 in the chat for yes and a 2 for no? How many of you have a notebook, like one notebook that you carry around and write stuff down? 1 is yes in the chat and 2 is no. 1 is yes, 2 is no. I'm hoping to see all ones. A lot of ones. 1 is yes, 2 is no. The reason I ask this question is an iPad count. Maybe. It might. And it depends. So it definitely depends on like what your personal style is. But here's my rant. I think that as realtors, even experienced realtors, Kyle said he goes into appointments now without a checklist per se, but I guarantee you he brings his notebook and he brings his laptop to every single listing appointment, right, Kyle? And on his laptop are notepads where he's got notes. He's got documents he can pull up. He's got the seller net sheet, bookmarked. He's got the MLS open with his CMA saved. So like that's kind of a virtual notepad, right? He brought all his notes to this meeting. But I think one of the like forgotten skills of us as real estate entrepreneurs is writing. Like if we don't write stuff down or take notes, like Kyle might take them online and so might Chris on all digital. I love it. I'm primarily digital too. So you either got your real notebook or you got like your digital notebook, but no matter what, you've got to be in the habit of writing stuff down. And that checklist is sort of just an extension of writing stuff down, right? If you're not checking off what you're doing every day, or you're not writing down who you called or what activities you did from prospecting, from sales, or you're not coming prepared to meetings with notes or some sort of, information and a place to take notes. Because when you're asking people questions, like you're sitting down in a listing presentation, Kyle said he spends a lot of time connecting. What if you find a nugget, like a helpful, important thing that you need to come back to? And you're managing that conversation effectively. So you're not going to like break the flow and interrupt them, but you need to jot down has lien, has deferred payment on the house, because you don't want to forget that payment that they need to pay off. And if you didn't write it down anywhere, you very well might, and you might make a huge mistake just from not writing. So that's just a rant that I have right now. Like, I just believe you should be writing all the time. And to me, it also comes back to managing your sales pipeline and your lead funnels. Like if you aren't writing these people's names down consistently, like how do you remember who you're talking to and who you're talking about? Like they're in your phone, it's not good enough. Unless you have a well-run CRM where literally it's visual and you can see all your categories and all your statuses and all your people, you should have like actual written funnels of people, or else you don't know your people well enough. You don't know your network and your relationships and who you should be calling and talking to. So that's why I think writing is super duper critical for managing your business.
Yeah. One other thing too, I listened to a podcast this weekend, and it was a very interesting one. It was from Ed Milet. Anyone in here listen to Ed Milet podcast? Put a 1. Put a 1 if you know Ed Milet. I just started listening to his stuff, probably a month ago or so, and Ed is he was talking about how to be a great listener, and I thought, I don't know, whatever it was, I actually thought when he was talking about this, I thought about listing appointments because I had just come from one. And honestly, guys, I think that's something that's so important when we run our listing appointments. We've got to be a great listener. And he says when you have a great conversation, when you're truly being a great listener, you've talked 50% of the time or less, right? Like 50% would be, good. Y'all both said, good stuff. But I think so many times we go into a listing appointment and we probably talk 80, 90, 95% of the time because we feel like they're, having us out to their home. And we've got to be this expert and, do all the talking, do all the presenting or whatever. But I think of some of my best listing presentations, and it's when I get to know the people and I get to really like hear from them everything. I ask them a lot of questions and hear how they answer it. And then we have a dialogue back and forth. It's not just like I think we think of listing presentations and we think we got to go up there like we're on stage or something, right? And we're like presenting to people. But all it is really, I try and keep it like a dialogue, right? The best one I had was literally, it was like last week. I didn't even know the people. They called, it's so funny. They called my office number asking for some other agent. And they were like, does Bill Smith work, or is Bill Smith here? I said, no, I don't even know an agent by that name. She's like, really? Well, when I Googled him, this is the number it came up. And so, oh, you got it on. And so anyways, I was like, he doesn't work here, but is there something I can help you with? And she said, well, actually, I'm trying to do this. And so I said, well, I'm not Bill. I don't want to step on his toes, but if you can't figure out who he is or find him, I'm happy to come out there and help you. So I didn't even know these people. Usually I do have sphere of influence stuff, but when I went out there, I literally was just, having a great conversation with her about like, this house was her father's house, and he's in elderly care now, and so they're trying to sell for him. And we just had this great conversation. Well, I learned too that they're about to be selling their house with 12 acres up in Mystic Shores here in probably the next few months, because they want to go move closer to their to their father, and help him. And so, this house that I was selling for the parents, probably like $120,000 house. But in the conversation, and they didn't give that information up right away, it wasn't until probably 40, 45 minutes in the conversation that they actually explained that to me. And I think it was because we were having such a great dialogue, about just life in general, about the process, about what I thought, how, my experience, their experience, who they are, what they do. It was a great conversation. And so it wasn't a presentation. I don't go in there thinking of presenting anymore. I know I definitely have bullet points of things that like need to be said or need to be discussed. But anyways, I think that was just something I wanted to hit on was, make it a discussion, guys. Like really, try and learn about this person, learn about their system, about what their motivations are, kind of some of the stuff that we talked about early on. So we'll have to share that Ed Milet one with you guys. But honestly, guys, that's the best. The best advice is be a good listener. You got to be good at listening.
Who's great at listening in here? I'd love to hear from you guys. Like how? Why are you great? What do you do? Like what makes good listening? What makes a good listener? Somebody's got to be great. If you're listening to me now, maybe you're good. No? All right. Just seeing if anybody's got contribution this morning, guys. Monday morning at 9:30. There's some amazing agents on this call. And even if you're new, I'm sure you're amazing and have a nugget that would contribute to somebody else. So if you have just a question, give it to me.
I can contribute if you want.
I do want.
I'm washing a baby bottle. So I actually have 3 listings coming up at the end of the month. And I think you're absolutely right. The way to listen is just honestly just sit there with empathy. That's what I do. Some of my listing appointment on Saturday took 2 hours. And it was a couple that tried to sell last year. The husband had student loan debt and couldn't get approved. I nurtured them. And because I gave them such great value last year, they emailed me and said, "Hey, Alicia, do you remember it didn't go through? Are you willing to help us this year?" And I said, "Of course." So not only did I give them boxes last year, I'm going to give them boxes this year. But when they said they have to sell, really kind of pick apart their email. So she says, "I have to sell." So I'm like, "Okay, are you, negative? What happened? Like, did you fall behind?" And she's like, "No, we really want a brand new house, but in order to buy the house and put the down payment, we have to sell for that equity to pay down debt." So this one, they're going to put on the market by, we have a target date of May 24th. And I always recommend giving them a target date. So you walk the home with them. That's what I do. I tell them what not to do, what to do, declutter, depersonalize, offer them a charity that will pick up all of their things that they don't want to keep, because people are always willing to give things away. Help declutter for them, give them a lot of advice and a lot of hand holding. New sellers are scared and they just, they're selling for a reason. Like you said, I picked up 2 listings at an open house, stayed there from 10 to 6 each day. She walked into the open house, didn't buy that one, but she has to sell her house, sell her mom's house, and they're going to buy together. So she's also coming up at the end of the month. So definitely, I think just listening, providing lots of value, giving them every single number. So with this couple on Saturday, I'm going to help them find temporary housing for 6 months. Their new build will be ready on February. I have them with the lender to ensure that they're going to get approved. I know the amount that they need to pay off all their debt. So I know their bottom line on their net sheet. So it really is, when Curtis tells you, a math game. It's a math game. So if I can give you any type of advice, that's what I'd say.
I love it. That's huge. Thank you for your contribution. I appreciate it. That brings up another just kind of like interesting thing to consider, just an angle when working with any lead, buyer, seller, or otherwise, or even just when thinking about your sphere of influence, right? Your network, your VIPs. Like I've got lunch in a couple of hours with a buddy of mine who's never bought or sold a house with me, but he's referred me like 3 times. And, and here's why I think why. So every single one of us is kind of consumed with our own life, right? We think what's going on in our life is the whole world. And that's the real world, because that's our reality, right? And so often buyers and sellers, they already have a version of reality that they want to come true. They have a pretty specific story that they want to sort of play out. They may not know all the steps. They may not have the 100% plan to the detail. That's why they're consulting with us, a professional, but they have a way they want it to go. They have a need or a pain or a problem in their life that they're already trying to solve with this purchase or with this sale. And like Kyle was saying, like Alicia hammered home, and like we started the conversation, our like superpower sort of has to be getting to that story and finding the answer, figuring it out. Like this lady who was interviewing Kyle, she knew she had a house to sell in 3 months. She just wasn't telling him she had a house to sell in 3 months. She knew she needed a great agent. She just wasn't telling him she needed a great agent. She was telling him she needed to help her mom sell a $150,000 house. And she did. That's one part of her story, because maybe she can't, handle the stress of doing both things at one time. So she needs to get this knocked out for her mom. So then she can add her life into the picture, the equation. Like Alicia was talking about, these people have 3 or 4 things going on. And I was talking about that lady. So Kyle asked me right before we started, hey, Curtis, do you have any real estate going on this weekend? And I was talking about a listing that I had closed last week. And if you think about it, like, well, why are you talking about a listing you had closed last week as real estate you did this weekend? Well, here's why. Because when we went to list the house, she knew, kind of like Alicia was just talking about, she knew she couldn't get into her dream home by selling this house today, because she needed to take her cash and pay down some debt. And she needed to rebuild a couple of things in her credit financially to get herself where she wanted to go next. So she formulated this 12-month plan before we listed. And I made absolute certain that like this plan was what she wanted to do. This was the most important thing to her, was getting to that next dream home. And if this 12 months was what it was going to take, that's what it was going to take. So once we sold, she was crying because she had to go move into an apartment. She was so like sad, but she was also so happy that this was the beginning of the next 12-month plan. And so when we talked again this weekend, and when I went and saw her at her work, because we were out at the mall and that's where she worked, like that's what she wanted to talk about, right? She wanted to talk about the next 12-month journey, the next plan, what she can be doing this weekend, next month to start getting ready. And that was all part of like her fulfilling that story, right? And so a lot of times that is our quest, is to actually figure out the story that they already have sort of figured out in their mind and help them put all the pieces together. And that builds tons of value and trust, because when you come in with like, hey, here's the plan, here's how it goes. Okay, you're the professional, that's helpful, but they still want to feel like they're a part of that. And oftentimes, depending on their personality, they want to control it. So you have to like make them feel like they're controlling it, even though you're driving, right? So just keeping that in mind and recognizing that listening is a huge part of doing that. I think that's pretty important.
Awesome. Well, hey, that triggered something in my mind. So we're talking plans, and I wanted to get just a feel from this group that we've got on the call right now. How many of us have an actual business plan? So we're going to come up on the second half of this year, right? So a lot of times I business plan for a full year, right? Like, what am I going to do for 2019? What am I going to do for 2020? But now if you didn't already have a plan for the first half of this year, like you need to have a plan for the second half, right? Like, how are you going to win these next 6 months of this year? And so I just want to see from this group, put a 1 in the chat if you guys have a business plan already for 2019 that you're actively working, or you've got a plan for the next 6 months. Put a 2 if you don't have a plan. And when I'm talking a plan, this is what I mean. It's not just like, well, it's not a dream, right? It's not like a hope. It's literally a written down plan, like something like, I know I need to make $120,000 this year to support my family. It's going to take me 30 homes, at a, average commission, or 20 homes at an average commission of $6,000, right, to make that. And from those 20 deals, I expect that, I should get, 16 deals from my sphere of influence and 4 deals from, boosted Facebook posts or something, right? Just, it could be, doesn't have to be like Sound of Music clear, like sometimes Curtis and I talk about as far as our business plan goes, but like you've got something written down that you have an idea of what you need to do to win for this year. And so the reason that I bring that up is because—
Hey, Kyle, pause there. Hold that thought. Yeah. Guys, we only have 4 numbers in the chat. Unless you're driving, put a 1 or 2 in the chat, please, so we can know. Because if this is a good topic, I want to go deep on it, right? We want to go deep on it. Like Kyle said, summer's coming up. Y'all need to crush it. If it's not a good topic, we'll move on to the next one. So please put a 1 or 2 in the chat, unless you're driving. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, we've already got good ones. I'm glad to see a lot of people. Don't be afraid to put 2. There's a lot of agents I talk to every day that don't have a plan. Or the other problem about having a plan is you don't go back to it, right? You don't have it easily to see it, right? Like you build it in the beginning of the year and then you never look at it again, right? You need to have a plan, and if sometimes you got to adjust that plan, right? Like we had a plan for 2018, didn't we, Curtis? And we had to switch that plan up 6 months into the year. Like, yeah, we blew that plan up, right? And so, like, I mean, that happens. You know, sometimes you have to do that, right? If things aren't going as planned, you got to create a new plan, right? And so, all right, so we got some plans. Perfect. We got some people without plans, so we can talk about this topic. I think it's worthwhile. Because here's the thing is like, I created I always create my 1 year plan, like what I want to do that year. But what I actually did just the other day is I created, and this is going to sound funny to some people, but I created my 17-year plan, like where I want to be by the time I'm 50, right? And it started with what I want to have as a net worth, right? Like how much do I want to have, right, at that point. And it really breaks it down. Like you have to start to think, because then I started using some like financial calculators and stuff of, if I put in X amount of money each year and I get this much return, what does that look like 17 years from now? Like how much would I be worth? Like how much money will I have to build my nest egg, or like, to fund my retirement or whatever. And so I did the long-term planning today, which I've never done that before. And it was very eye-opening, and it's actually encouraging, right? Like, and it gives you a plan of, okay, well, hey, if I need to set aside this much, in a year, every single year, maybe it's not 17 years out, maybe it's 5 or whatever it is, right? But I just did 17 because I wanted to see what that was going to look like when I'm 50. But 5 years down the road, and then you can say, okay, well, if I need to save this much and I have this much in living expenses every year, what do I need to make, right? And so that's really like the full backtracking of it all. But I will say that it was encouraging, because then I got to see some stuff. It was motivating, but it really put some perspective in, and it gave me some framework with how I need to start structuring my life and my business and all that good stuff. So Curtis, I'll kick it to you to talk about.
I like it. Let's make sure you guys want to keep going on this topic. Looks like we got half and half. So I think it's a really awesome topic to cover today. Unless anybody has a more pressing real estate question. If you need us to help you crack a deal right now, get somebody across the table, across the finish line, sign a rep, whatever it is, we'll keep going. All right. Everybody wants to keep going on this business. I love it. So go for it.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, what started it all, it's funny because I also listen to Grant Cardone, right? And Grant Cardone, I mean, he's a pretty intense dude, right? So, he's all about sales and whatnot. But, he says that, a lot of people, they think like $1 million, right? Like that's like that's the number that everybody gets to. And he's saying that now today, like, especially for the future, like, the new number is $10 million. If you want to have generational wealth, you want to be able to have, that kind of impact and the ability to impact the lives of others, and to really have sustainable, like something that you can live on, it's $10 million. And I never even had thought in my mind, like, I want to have $10 million, right? Like never thought of that, never crossed my mind to have that. But if you think about it, like 10 years out or something, no, I mean, I really didn't have a long term. Now I've said I would love to have millions of dollars, like, you always have those dreams. Like I'd love to have this much, right? But I never said like, for me to like be where I want to be, like $10 million is like a number, right? You've got to set a number. Maybe your number's not 10 million, maybe it's 3 million or whatever it is, 1 million, whatever it is. But you got to have a number. And I never like had a defined number. I just knew like, I just want to be wealthy. I want to be able to provide my family everything. I want to be able to contribute back to people, and that was like just kind of a generalized goal. But this was the first time I was like, I want to hit $10 million, right? And I want to do it by the time I'm 50 years old. Like, what do I need to do in the next 17 years to accumulate $10 million? And so I literally looked and I was like, all right, so if I'm starting with, X amount of money, right? I took my current net worth and I said, all right, this is what I'm worth today. And if I put in $120,000 every single year for the next 17 years and I earn 7% interest, that's going to put me at $9.6 million, right? So like, that's a rudimentary plan now. Like I've got something that I can shoot towards, and I'm like, all right, well, what do I need to do to put that in there? And it was pretty encouraging, right? So now it's like, I got a plan. Like I got to make more than 120 grand, because I'm going to save 120 grand every year and be adding that to it. And then I live, on say $90,000 a year. That means I got to make over 200 grand a year for the next 17 years, right? To be able to even hit that goal that I want to hit. But at least now I know. Before I didn't even know. And so like, not only did that help me with long-term planning, but I think that's also the clarity that you get when you do these short-term, 1 year goals. It makes you realize like the amount of work you need to put in, And sometimes that can be eye-opening. Like you're like, oh God, I gotta, and especially when you break it down to the number of phone calls you need to make to be able to prospect. I mean, there's conversion ratios, and Curtis can probably talk to you all about that stuff. But when you actually, don't make it a dream, you make it like, okay, this is my plan. Sometimes that's pretty eye-opening. And I think a lot of us, that's especially as, new agents or whatever, you need to have that kind of come to Jesus moment where you're like, hey, this isn't just a dream. This is like, I've got to do this to make this happen,
Dude, I love it. So here's the exercise, guys. If y'all are ready for it, Rebecca, this is for you. Randall, this is for you. Everybody. So if you're at a place where you can write, I want you to literally write. Okay. So here's the exercise that'll close out the year, and I'm going to do it with you. Kyle, if you want to do it too, cool, go for it. So we're in May, and whatever's closing in May for you, whatever money you're going to make in May that's already set, awesome. But you also still have time to impact June, right? So we're going to start in June. So we got June, July, August, September, October, November, December. We have 7 months left this financial calendar year, okay? So here's the first number I want you to write down. And if you need help getting to it, no problem. But I want you to write down how much money you need to keep, like make and then keep, right? Not paying taxes, not spending expenses. How much money you actually have to keep for the rest of this year. Try to come up with that number and write it down. If you need help, think about your after business cost of living. Think about everything that costs you money, your bills, your lifestyle, your fun, your gifting, everything you spend money on outside of your business expenses, everything you spend money on, and multiply that times 7. So come up with that number real quick. We'll take a minute. Let everybody literally write that down. Your monthly number after your business expenses that you need to make to live the lifestyle you want. Not like the bare minimum lifestyle you want. That means you want to be able to eat out, then put out the eat out money. That means you want to be able to give a nice gift on someone's birthday, put in the gift birthday money. And this is I'll be a little vulnerable here with you guys in a minute. This is something I never did this way. I did the bare minimum way. What's the bare minimum I need to live on every single month? And guess what? Made that every month, all the time, without fail. The bare minimum, Rebecca, the bare minimum one. But when I wrote down the dream one, the one to live the perfect lifestyle, guess what? I'm really close to making that now every month. Like it's pretty crazy. That's why I'm asking you to write out the one you need every month to live the life you want, not the one you need every month to live like the bare minimum life. All right. So does everybody have that number? Everybody has their rest of the year money number. Okay. Now we're all in real estate. So let's assume, and if you have more than one income stream, good for you, but let's assume your only income stream is selling houses. All right. So now what you need to do is you need to take your average commission that you put in your pocket, right? So if you're at a brokerage and you have a split, it's not your total commission. It's the commission you put in your pocket. So if you do a $6,000 deal and you're on a 20% split, it's $4,800. If you pay a transaction manager and you pay something else, then it's $4,400. So whatever that number is, okay? Get that number. Once you have that, now you need to divide that money goal for the rest of the year divided by your average commission price. And if you need a place to divide it, pull the calculator app on your phone. And remember, I said the last skill is writing it down. So write this down. If you really want to hit it, if you want a basic starting point like what Kyle did, if you want a rudimentary plan, as he called it, write that down. So now you should have a unit goal. And stop me if I'm going too fast. Everybody have their unit goal? Give me a 1 in the chat if you have your unit goal. Number of units you need to do because you took your average commissions divided by, or you took your money for the rest of the year divided by your commissions. Okay. All right. Everybody's got their unit goal. And again, if you have more streams of income, good for you. Gravy on top. Unless it's not the gravy and the commissions are your gravy on top, then good for you doubly. All right. So everybody's got their unit goal. Perfect. Now this is where it could get a little bit tricky. So I'm going to try to keep it simple for you. But this is where I challenge you to go dig into your business and learn a little bit more about what your actual conversion is. So if you have your unit goal, let's use, for example, let's say you need to do 25 more deals this year. Then I want you to multiply that times 2. And this is now how many clients you need this year. Unit goal times 2 for the rest of the year, not counting everything you've done to date. For the rest of the year, you need this many clients. And here's why. Because on average of clients that you think you're working with, you should typically be able to close 50% of those folks. And I say that you're thinking you're working with, that's a topic for another day, whether or not you have a buyer's representation agreement with them, whether or not they're going to list with you after all, whatever it may be. But in general, once you have 2 clients, one of them is going to close. And in the beginning, guys, don't be discouraged if that's not true for you. The law of averages will work out. So if you've got 3 or 4 clients and no closings yet, that's okay. Keep going. Try to get to 6, 7, 8, 9 clients, because eventually you're going to get 4 closings off of those 9 relationships. So now you've got your number of clients you need. So now, to not get too granular, I'm gonna stop there for you, and I'm gonna pull in one thing that Kyle mentioned, because this is super important for your plan. Super important. So now you got your client number, right? The number of clients you need. Now I need you to break that down. Divide it right now. Let's go with, for super ease of being an awesome real estate agent, break that down into 3 different categories. And the categories are, where are these clients going to come from? If the number is 45 for easy math, if the number is I need 45 clients, where are you going to get these 45 from? 3 different categories. And they don't have to be equal. Kyle might get 30 of his next 45 from referrals and his sphere of influence. He might get 10 of his next 45 from social media and networking. And he might get 5 referrals from real estate agents at our brokerage across the country. That's 3 categories. But take your client number, break it into 3 categories, and don't, unless you have no information, don't just hope, right? So if you've never gotten any clients, well, then come up with your best 3 right now. Open houses, cold calling, and Facebook. But if you have some data and you have some real history, double down on that, right? If you've gotten 4 clients this year because you do sit-ins at new builders, make sure new builders is a category, and you go get 8 more this year. Don't miss that opportunity. If you're already really good on social media, don't say you're going to start calling expireds. If you're really good on the phones, but you don't even use the computer, don't say you're going to do Facebook ads. Don't give yourself a source that you're not already proven in or really investing in, and hone in and focus on that, again, for simplicity's sake. Kyle's saying he needs to make X amount of money every single year, so he's going to do what he knows makes him X amount of money simply. Will he dabble in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and something else? Sure, he will. But he's going to double down on the stuff that makes him money, and that's real estate, right? So same thing for you. You got to double down on the sources that are good business for you and get those sales. So hopefully that helps give everybody a super basic plan. We got a lot of in-depth planning we could do, and it's probably that time of year to close out the year. Maybe we do a video or something, Kyle.
Hi, Randy. No work today?
One thing I wanted to say is, at least for me, what I've realized is, if I know that I need, so here's my numbers. I'll just give you. So I want to make 100,000 in real estate sales the next 7 months. 8,000 average sales price. I'll be capped, so 13 units, basically 26 clients is where I'm at. And if I look at it, the one thing I will say that I'll know as far as conversion ratios of having a list. Let me just put this into a list perspective, because I think that that's also important. Because you're like, well, how do I get 26 clients? I think you need about 6 people per client that you're going to get in your list that you're reaching out to, that you're communicating with on at least a monthly basis. Whether it's you got to send postcards to them, you got to write handwritten letters to them, you got to take some of them to lunch, and all that stuff is we can talk a lot about how you top grade and take you do more things with the people that can impact your business more. But at the basic level, I think you need to have 6 to 1 is what I've always seen. If I've got 300 people in my database, right? That's what I have right now. I've got 9,000, but those are internet leads and a lot of stuff that I don't really mess with anymore. But I've got 300 people that are in my core database, my sphere of influence. They're the people that some of them I've sold a house to already. Some of them are good friends of mine that referred business to me or I know would use me. But I've got 300 people on that list. Now that's pretty big because especially for a new agent. But what I'll tell you is, out of that 300 people, I sell 50 homes a year from that. Right? That's what I know. So I'll say that if you need 26 clients and it's referral and SOI, you need 120 people in that list of referrals and SOIs that are close to you. That's not 120 Facebook leads. Now, that's a whole nother category. If you got Facebook leads, I'll tell you, if you're good at converting them, you need 50 to 1, right? Like 2%. So, if you're putting down that you need to get, 3 of your 26 clients from Facebook leads, well, then you need to generate 150 leads at least, right? Because that's if you're good. I know a lot of people that generate, they do 1% conversion. That would mean you need 100 to 1. And then anything in between that is kind of a different ratio, right? So like open houses, I'd say is better than Facebook, because you're meeting face to face with somebody, you're getting a connection with them. They're probably a little bit more, further in the process of actually looking, because they're actually stopping at houses and looking. So they're probably not quite as good as 6 to 1, but they're probably better than 50 to 1. So put them as 15 to 1, right? And you need to generate that many connections with people at open houses over the next 7 months, right? So like start to think of it in that framework, going anywhere from 100 to 1 being like a Facebook lead and you're bad at closing it, all the way to like your sphere of influence, your people that love you, know you, trust you is 6 to 1, and kind of rating that source somewhere in the middle of that. And then, kind of figuring out and backtracking how many clients that's going to give you and how many connections you need to make to give you that amount of clients. I hope that makes sense.
Dude, guys, that was gold. That was like free gold. Like, and I want to redo what you just did, Kyle, because we dropped some numbers there again, man. So guys, just so y'all know, let me promote something real quick before we wrap up. Kyle and I have had this dormant Facebook group for like months, and we used to call it the Agent Underground. We're renaming and rebranding it the Agent Mastermind, because we work so hard at learning this business and becoming as great at it as we can. And we help so many agents on like a private one-on-one basis, and they help us too. And we are constantly masterminding in person, online, over the phone, at events, like all the time. So we've rebranded that Facebook group the Agent Mastermind. I would love to encourage you guys to come over there and pour into that group, each other, people, ask questions. Like, you want to continue this Monday mastermind the rest of the week, please come to that group, ask your questions. Randall, you have to come to that group to watch this video and then get the information and then ask out loud if you're stuck. It's called The Agent Mastermind on Facebook. The Agent Mastermind, it's a group. We're kicking it off this morning. We're going to be recording like our welcome video and all that stuff together. But here's why I'm saying this is super duper gold, because we could do like probably another 30 minutes on these ratios. Kyle just gave you 3 or 4 big ratios. He gave you a internet lead ratio. If you're bad at closing, you need 100 to get 1 closing, which means 100 should get you 2 clients, right? 2 clients get 1 closing. That's what we talked about, 50%. If you're good at closing, you need 50 of those to get 1 closing, which will get you 2 clients, right? And then he talked about open houses. About 15 to 1 is his average historically. That means if you can go get 15 relationships opened at an open house, you can close 1. So which one's faster for you? Can you generate 50 leads from Facebook faster, or go do however many open houses it takes to get you 15 leads? Then the reason we talked all about referrals last week was because historically his average on SOI is 6 to 1. So if you know 6 people that know, like, and trust you, love you, believe in you, care about you, go have 6 meetings and get yourself that 1 closing. Also much faster. So I want to put a bow on this because I think there are some topics sort of developing in here that are general themes. And if you guys start to think this way, I think you'll bring even better questions and even more value to your fellow teammates every time you come in here. So the themes of this mastermind so far, because our goal is focused on helping you get your next deal or close your next deal. And we are, yeah, that's funny. And we are, we're masterminding. Here's the topics that keep coming up. We keep talking about your list, how to manage it, how to put more people on it, how you should curate it, what you should do with it, like your list. That's one big theme. So if you are not yet thinking about your list, that is how successful real estate agents think. They think about their list all the time. Where is it? What do I need to do to it? Am I maintaining it? Am I slicing and dicing it? Am I just managing it, right? Your list. The other thing we talked about, this sounds super simple, but this is like the bulk of the mastermind so far. We talk about having conversations and building relationships. What to say, when to say it, how to listen, who to say it to, what are the right words, how to set expectations, what is the timing, what should you do to further relationships. So we talk about your list, talk about conversations and relationships. The next one we talk about is setting and running appointments. So if appointments is not in your lexicon, put it in there right now. Start telling your dog about appointments. Start telling your dad about appointments. Start telling your barber about appointments. If you're not saying appointments, you're not in real estate yet. Like, you're not really building something that's sustainable, setting and running appointments. And then the last one, I'm sorry, guys. You're going to hate me. You're going to hate this, but this is my platform, so I'm going to spit it. It is math. Real estate and business math. It is. You've got it. And don't say you don't like it anymore. Just say you're starting to like it. You're learning to like it. You have to be good at math to build something successful and sustainable and be the absolute best for your clients that you can be. You just have to. You may not even have to be good at it. You just got to do it. You at least have to do it. You got to write it down. You got to put pen to paper. You got to back those numbers in and out and all that good stuff. So list, conversations, relationships, appointments, and math. Those are 4 big themes that keep coming up. So when you're thinking about bringing stuff here, bring that stuff here so we can help you guys, so we can help each other, keep collaborating. Go join that group, please, so we can keep this thing running all week long. Invite your friends to that group, whatever you want to do. Let's use the Agent Mastermind for sure.
I love it. Awesome, guys. Yeah, thank you, Curtis, for pointing that out. Yeah, please put some questions in. That's a good idea, Curtis, because then, heck, who knows? Maybe we can even start, just having those questions be what we start these calls with, too, in case you don't have questions coming right away. But yeah, I love it. So thanks, guys, again, for jumping on this call. And awesome, Randall. Glad you joined the mastermind. Perfect. But thanks, everybody, for being on here. And we'll hope to see everybody in our Agent Mastermind group here on Facebook. And we'll see you guys next Monday. Please, as we're starting to grow this, share this with your friends, your fellow agents, right? Just tell them, go to the Agent Mastermind or themondaymastermind.com and get them on these calls, guys. We want to get these things bigger. Again, the more people we have, the better questions we get, the better responses we'll get, other people chiming in. So thanks again for everyone. Curtis, I'll see you here in a little bit to record this video.
Headed your way, my man. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Awesome, Adrena. Thanks for inviting them. Thanks, everybody.
Guys.
Oh, hey, one more plug here real quick. Patricia, I see you on. Chris, Tim, anybody that I don't know, even if I don't know you. If you guys have something to contribute, please don't hold back. Please come to these Mondays. I want you to feel the same energy we feel when we leave this call, like kicked off and ready to rock and dominating, because as you help people and you pour into people, like, it gets you rolling. So even though Kyle and I don't usually shut up, jump in and contribute. Please, guys, I want y'all to feel like when you get here, you're here to pump yourself up, pump your fellow agents up too. So just want you guys to know that that's an open invitation, y'all.
Yep, the recordings, Randall, whenever we are done with this, I upload them into the Agent Mastermind group. So if you join that Facebook group, they will definitely be in there. I also put them on my YouTube page. So if you just search Kyle Handy on YouTube, the recordings are in there as well. So awesome, guys. Have a great day.
Later.